Okay, so these are the gods that were worshipped and still are worshipped today that we hold as symbols of healing for this nation. Now, we as Christians know that these are false gods and we are not to worship them or have anything to do with them. And I'm not saying that when we go to the hospital or buy medication and things like that, that we are worshiping these gods. But what I am saying is there is a spirit working behind these symbols that the medical and drug industry have adapted when they adapted and took on these symbols. When you take on these symbols, like I said, you take on the demonic spirits and false gods behind it. 1 Corinthians 10:20-21 says, "But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to gods. And I would not that you should have fellowship with devils." Verse 21, "Ye cannot drink of the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the tables of devils." See, the thing is this: the demonic worship, the sacrifices that the Greeks made to these two gods, and the sacrifices that the pilgrims that flocked to the temple of Asclepius made to these gods, they made them to devils. And we as Christians should not partake in these things based on the biblical text, 1 Corinthians 10:20-21. And we can see in the medical industry today, there are more people getting sick than people being healed of sicknesses. The big businesses are lying to the masses. The greed has made it to where the medical industry seeks to keep people sick in order to get more funding. And in another video, I'll talk more about, big businesses and then the things that they do to get more money from the masses. But we just want to stay on task here and on the path here of connecting these symbols to uh, demonic worship and things like that. So let's get back to the symbols. Now let's look at the medical symbols and what makes them up. You have the rod, a winged disc, and two snakes wrapped around it, and which is the caduceus. And the rod of Asclepius is just one rod with a snake wrapped around it. Both of the symbols have the same meanings because the rod of Asclepius is nothing more than the caduceus without the winged disc. So what we'll do, we'll focus our attention on the caduceus since it's the most used, and we will hit the rod of Asclepius at the same time. Okay, like I said before, the caduceus rod belongs to Hermes that has two snakes wrapped around it, a winged sun disk at the top. The thing is, this symbol is confused with the rod of Asclepius, which is the real symbol of medicine, because Asclepius is the god of medicine, which we have established earlier. Now, don't get me wrong, Hermes and Asclepius are both false gods, and we should not take on any of these symbols, I believe. But I just wanted to make sure I pointed out that we're not using the real symbol of healing according to Greek mythology. Mary Hope, who was an English writer and occultist, is addressed as a Wicca princess and a New Age author who wrote books on topics of psychology, human consciousness, the future of the planet Earth, witchcraft, and the Sirius star system. Mary Hope said in her book Practical Egyptian Magic, the caduceus is emblematic of the element of air. This consists of a circular or solar type disc enclosed by a pair of wings. In ritual magic, it is suspended over the altar in an easterly direction and used when invoking the protection and cooperation of the sylph. And the sylph is a mythological creature in Western tradition, also known as fairies. So when you get all these fairy cartoons, those are nothing more than sylphs. So is it safe to say that the sun disk is used in sun worship due to it being in an easterly direction? And also, just by the name sun disk, That kind of gives it away in itself. The Bible tells us about sun worship being an abomination to God in biblical times. Ezekiel 8:15-16 says, Then said he unto me, Hast thou seen this, O son of man? Turn thee yet again, and thou shalt see greater abomination than these. Verse 16, And he brought me, who is Ezekiel, into the inner court of the Lord's house, and behold, at the door of the temple of the Lord, between the porch and the altar, were 25 men, with their backs towards the temple of the Lord, and their faces towards the east, and they worshiped the sun towards the east. If you track back to ancient Babylon mysticism, you will find that Nimrod is known as the sun god. So this is who people are worshiping when they worship the sun. And we'll get to more on Nimrod later. Okay, now that we talked about the sun disk on top of the caduceus, now let's talk about the meaning of the two snakes and the staff on both of these symbols. The staff on these symbols are called the phallus, and Webster Dictionary says a phallus is an image of the male reproductive organ, especially that carried in procession in ancient festivals of Dionysus or Bacchus, symbolizing the generative power in nature. Also, the two serpents coupling the erect phallus, which is the fertility symbol, and we kind of can see the fertility symbol by the phallus going in between or penetrating between the snakes, is one of the most ancient Indo-European images found in various rites in both ancient and modern India, linking the symbol to Kundalini yoga, and Kundalini means coil. According to dictionary.com, Kundalini is the vital force lying dormant within one until activated by the practice of yoga, which leads toward spiritual power and eventual salvation. Now, my problem with this definition of Kundalini is that the Bible tells us in Acts 4:12, neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved. 1 Timothy 2:5 says, For there is one God and one mediator between God and man, the man Christ Jesus. So according to the Bible, which is the only word I believe in, reaching salvation through the Kundalini awakening is not possible because according to Acts 4:12 and 1 Timothy 2:5, the only way to salvation is through Jesus Christ and no other name. To really put a stamp of Kundalini yoga on the caduceus, let's look at a statement from Shri Mataji, founder of Sahaja Yoga, and she stated, To the Western mind, Kundalini may appear strange, but fortunately, there's a familiar symbol of it in Western culture. The symbol of medicine and a common logo on ambulances is the caduceus. Now, Madam Mataji recognizes the caduceus as a familiar sign of Kundalini awakening. Now, for a little information on Sahaja Yoga that was founded by Ms. Shri Mataji. Sahaja means spontaneous or born with you, and yoga translates as union with the divine or pervading power. Sahaja Yoga meditation involves the awakening of a subtle energy known as Kundalini, which lies dormant in the sacrum bone, or in Latin is called the ossacrum, which means the holy bone, which lies at the base of the spine in 3.5 coils. The gentle awakening of the Kundalini energy and in the inner journey of the self-discovery is known as enlightenment or self-realization. The thing that's lying dormant at the base of the spine or the ossacrum, holy bone, is really a snake. And that is what they're saying is awakening, a snake is awakening in you, and when it reaches your third eye, once it goes through the chakras, and the chakras we see on the image here are the circles. Those are chakras, which are energy forces. And once it gets to the third eye, which is the sixth chakra, that means that you're enlightened. But we want to stay on course here and just keep on going.